You're killing me, Smalls.
To infinity and beyond!
What the what?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Jurassic Park. What the What's?
Wow.
I am Eric Creech,
John Williams, is that you?
joined by John Williams.
Full orchestra.
Yes, and Ian Malcolm. Joined as always by Kyle Whitley and Ashby.
We're
Brame.
here.
What's
We're
up?
here.
What's up?
We're here.
How are y'all doing today?
Good.
I'm great. It's Saturday. Mm-hmm. You know, the weather's nice-ish for this time of year
Sure.
in good old North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And
We
yeah.
have, the weather in North Carolina, I think this week we're getting like the spring preview, and then it'll probably turn cold in like a couple weeks again.
it'll probably snow.
Yeah.
yeah. It's coming into the 80s and rain.
March snow.
Yeah.
It happens every once in a
Sure.
while.
Yeah. I think we've had an April snow before.
It wouldn't
It's
surprise me.
Very rare. But
I know we get shorts Christmas a lot, where you just can wear shorts on Christmas.
Yes, I do that regardless, but still.
Snow in March and April is probably more common than snow on Christmas around here. So
Yes.
Well,
For sure.
what's not common
it's
is
snow in Jurassic Park.
snow in
Don't
Jurassic
there.
Park. That's right. Look at that segue.
Dinosaurs,
Or
I assume.
dinosaurs in North Carolina.
Dinosaurs in North
Yeah.
Carolina.
I assume dinosaurs are cold-blooded. So, like, can you
might.
just imagine visiting and, like, a T-Rex is just kind of hanging out but not doing anything because he's like, my blood's kind of frozen over here.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Makes me wonder.
Oh, goodness. Thank
Could
you.
Jurassic Park open in the
it's
winter
like how
season?
when snakes don't
Yeah.
hibernate fast enough and
Uh-huh.
they get out in the cold and you see them and they literally just can't move.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine just seeing like a frozen velociraptor?
Well, that's what I
Just
mean.
can't-
Like, he's not, like, outwardly frozen, but he's
Right.
just like, I can't do anything.
Yeah, I can't
want to
move.
bite you
My
and
blood
eat you.
literally is not circulating.
I did that raking leaves once and came across, like, a giant frog, and he was just like,
Sorry, chilling.
can't do anything.
Can't do it. Can't
I'm scared
move.
to death because you're right there with a giant rake.
Right,
I'm also
but
frozen to
I
death.
literally
Yeah.
can't move. That's me every morning.
Yeah,
Can't,
true.
I can't move.
Well, that's a good question. Could Jurassic Park operate during a winter season? Like, if they were too slow to, like, hurt anybody.
I think that's why they had to choose like Costa Rica
Yeah.
to be like. I don't think
Yeah.
they can have northern. Although in one of the later movies, like Chris Pratt
Mm-hmm.
later movies, is it snowing? Are they in a cold place?
I
Like
don't remember.
when they're doing the auction stuff
That's true.
somewhere in a mountainous area.
Yeah. I don't remember if there's snow or not.
I don't know.
Huh. Anyway, food for thought.
That's something those people at the auction should think
maybe
about.
that's how they survived the dinosaurs in the new movie coming out
Okay.
this June.
Oh, can't wait.
Arnold shows up as Mr. Freeze.
Yes. Nice to meet you.
T-Rex is about to bite him in half. Chill. And just
You know what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
That's totally, yeah.
Oh man.
When are we going to do a bad movies season?
Hey,
Oh man.
I'm fine with that.
So many good ones to
So
choose
many
from.
Good
movies
bad
that
movies.
are so bad that
So
they're
many good,
kind of
bad
fun
movies.
to
Yeah,
watch.
for sure.
Yes.
Good
I
bad
feel like
movies.
we're actually doing one of those this season.
Maybe.
I'm not going to spoil which one because it's a personal favorite of mine, but I do think it's a bad movie. But it's,
Hey, look, as someone who has seen Spice World multiple times, I'm
still
all about
looking
good
forward
bad
to that.
movies.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
yes.
Josie and the Pussycats is very much the same route. Like, I love it though.
Crossroads.
I'm not a girl, not yet a woman.
Oh man, I don't know why I put this in the intro, but I don't know why I've never gotten this joke before. But when the T-Rex is chasing them, and it looks at the mirror, the side mirror, where it says objects in the mirror are closer than they appear, and it's like I
Yeah.
was like, that's kind of fun.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
that's a good one.
Well, thank you, folks, for joining us today. This is the third episode of the 9 on the 90s season.
Or
Please-
9 on 9.
90s on 9.
Yeah, that.
If we keep saying 90s on 9 is Sirius
Siri-
XM going to sue us?
Sirius XM
Sirius
is seriously
XM
going to
still
sue
around?
us.
9
Yeah.
on the 90s. I'm going to get it.
Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. And, of course, rate and review us 5 stars only. That's right, 5 stars.
I'm blinking my hand 5 times like you can see it, but you can't.
Please also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram by searching for What the What Media.
All
one
word.
That was
Just gonna loop back around to that.
Yep.
And you can find us on Twitter at WTW_media. This is your spoiler warning for today's episode. It's been almost 30 years, 29 years since this movie came out, Jurassic Park.
Hated that.
We will be talking about all things Jurassic Park and possibly even the sequels and the Jurassic World sequel series as well. So if you haven't seen any of it and you don't want to be spoiled, well, you've been warned.
Yeah.
So proceed with caution. Spoilers in the mirror are closer than they appear. So,
Way to tie that in.
yeah. So,
It's going to keep happening.
Yeah. That
right.
random John Williams just shows up.
on that note, let's talk about Jurassic Park.
First of all, I don't know if you can hear it in the mics, but in addition to the beautiful day, you can hear the birds singing. And I don't know if it's just me hearing it through my headphones or in the mics, but I hopefully you can hear it at home. Like this, it's nice and peaceful. It's a good way to start your day.
I do have a robust bird population.
Yeah, that's good.
Outside my house.
It's very peaceful.
Delta hasn't chased him away.
No, neither has the cat, honestly.
Does the cat have a name?
Jace.
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 You
Yes.
told us the name before, but you just
Jace.
refer to him as the cat.
Not Chase. Jace, Jace. Yes.
I teach at Jace. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's named after one of my favorite characters in the Shadowhunter series of books by Cassandra Clare, Jace Lightwood.
Is that the cat's?
Herondale.
Is that the
Jace.
cat's middle name?
He ends up having,
Lightwood Brain.
no, he ends up, the character ends up having multiple last names, which
Oh.
might be a spoiler alert. Anywho, but yeah.
It's okay. We gave
He's
the
my
spoiler
favorite
warning.
character. And I don't know, I was really into that book series when the cat came into my life. So he got named Jace. So,
And now you know.
Yeah.
So anytime we refer to the cat,
yeah.
it's Jace.
Yeah.
very
Ashby's favorite character. So,
Yeah.
Jurassic Park. Let's talk about it.
dinosaurs.
Birds, dinosaurs. Is
Yeah.
that where we were going with that? You know how dinosaurs,
No,
they say in the
no.
movie, are closer
Good
to
tie-in.
birds
Good
than
tie-in.
reptiles?
They should
No.
probably have had feathers instead of reptilian skin. That's a good tie-in.
So, anywho, we were talking before we got started that I don't remember watching Jurassic Park for the first time, which makes sense because in 1993, right? I was, hold on,
She's
6?
counting on her fingers.
I do
here.
the same
6.
thing.
I was 6, right? I was born in 88.
You would have been 5.
5. Okay. So,
I was
probably.
6.
Actually, no. You would have been 5 because it came out, I
Okay.
believe, in June of '93.
So I would have been 6.
Okay, so I was not old enough to see this movie probably in theaters, and I don't know if it was something my parents would have had an interest in going to see in theaters. They had, at this point, a 5-year-old and a newborn at home, so they weren't going to see movies in theaters this year. But yeah, at some point, I just know that Jurassic Park, sprang fully formed into my brain. Like, I can't remember the first time I saw it. I can't remember sitting down to watch it. I don't remember the first time I actually saw it start to finish. But it's just always been in my subconscious, like in my brain.
I feel like there's a lot, especially from our childhood, that say first Ninja Turtles. Sure, I watched it. I know I had it on VHS. So we watched it at home. I remember at times, during summer times, whatever, watching it. First Batman, definitely not necessarily a kids movie at all. But I remember seeing the whole thing and knowing Jack
Right.
Nicholson's Joker.
Right.
Same way with this now that my sister, whenever her son was coming along, he's 6 or 7 now, I think, and he for the first whole point of his life, he's loved dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are everywhere in this house. He has could tell you all about them. He read books on dinosaurs. That was his thing. It still is somewhat. Never seen Jurassic Park,
Right.
but in my mind, I was like, he loves this. How can you not show him this movie?
Right.
And my sister was like, well, he probably have nightmares and stuff. And it's he does
Right.
have some nightmares and
It
stuff
was
in general.
an interesting dichotomy because I know that Eric was also talking about how big dinosaurs were for our generation as kids. And I remember Jurassic Park commercials for Jurassic Park toys. and you could get the Velociraptor, and there were like lunch boxes, and there were the Jeeps and stuff. And so it was interesting because it definitely is a movie that you can't watch. I mean, it's rated PG-13. I would say maybe a kid who's 10 or 11 could probably ingest it without too much trauma.
Yeah.
But the idea that like they decided to have toys for kids skewed to a kid young enough who probably wasn't old enough to see the movie was very interesting to me. And it worked, right?
Yeah.
Like there were tons of kids who had Jurassic Park toys that weren't allowed to see Jurassic Park.
Like, well, I did and my cousin Lewis did. And I remember there was different scales of it because there were like plastic dinosaurs that were rubberish, whatever, that were actually made to look very much like the dinosaurs that even had like chunks that would come off that would show like bones and stuff underneath where like they got
so you
bit
could
by
see their,
another
like,
one.
skeletal system
Yeah.
too.
And so it was like if another, you could play with your dinosaurs and if one bit the other one and ripped him off, like you could see all that. But then they also had like giant stuffed animals, like that were much friendlier looking because I had some of those too. And it's tough to say, like, because there's so much of that stands out in my mind. Is like, well, obviously I watched Jurassic Park, and I know it did. I don't know when though, and it seems like I was young to be playing with those toys. So I don't know. I have no idea.
So I want to give some credit to like our love of dinosaurs in the early '90s.
To Barney, of course.
Well, I mean, yes,
I'm just kidding,
in a
but
sense,
sort of, yeah.
But to a couple things. One, The Land Before Time came out in the
Sure,
late
yeah, yeah.
'80s.
Yeah.
That was definitely a kids movie. Might have been our first. Like,
There's a Bambi moment in there though.
yes, there is, but still,
Ugh. What was the other one with the dinosaurs? We're back.
we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
Yes.
That came out in the early '90s.
And the Dinosaurs TV show.
The Dinosaurs TV show was the other one I was going to mention. It came out in '91, which was on TGIF. So all those things probably played into the, I guess, the cultural phenomenon that was, okay, dinosaurs. Okay, that's going to be a thing we can sell now, and that's something that people don't really have an IP on. So you can make a stuffed animal dinosaur, and no one owns the trademark to it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
And then that led to two things in the '90s that I feel like just kind of helped with the explosion of the popularity of dinosaurs. Jurassic Park and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which
That's true.
was based on dinosaur, the dinosaurs,
True, right.
where their powers came from.
Right.
So you throw all those things in a little blender over the course of 4 to 5 years. And of course, dinosaurs are super huge.
Right.
I was just trying to find a place of like, okay, why did we love dinosaurs so much when this came out in '93? But I remember loving dinosaurs when I was like 4.
Right.
Sure.
right.
In 1990, or in the before this movie came out, and like I said, it just hit me like, oh well, there was already dinosaurs in pop culture and multimedia for kids before this movie came out,
Right.
And so the kids who were like myself, maybe a little bit of college generation, but maybe the kids who were a little older than me who got to experience Land Before Time were familiar with the Dinosaurs TV show. This movie Jurassic Park was more of, it wasn't necessarily kid friendly, but it was like the next level. So it's like, I guess that's why it just really appealed to us,
Right.
So
There's part of me in my mind that just thinks that our parents took us to these movies. I'm probably wrong, but like, in my brain, if I'm just like throwing something back, I'm like, these were popular movies at the time. Everybody was throwing it out there. They're like, here, buy these toys for your kids. So our parents just took us. Versus
Right.
today, there's so much more information and reviews and things that are public online that weeks before a movie ever comes out, parents can make a decision of like, I'm going to take my child to this or not. Versus us as child, it was, he got upset, we had to leave.
Yeah.
Versus now it's like, well, he would get upset, we're not going. Like,
right.
Right.
So,
Well, and you mentioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm like, well, that's close to dinosaurs.
so that's what I think. It's that whole realm of things.
And like, but that also got me thinking. Like, one day, our parents just sat us in front of the TV in front of something and was like, "Hey, maybe he'll like this." Because like, Ninja Turtles the cartoon came out in '87. I was 1. You were just born.
It's the popular the same way though. Like,
I mean-
it's the popular, especially then. You didn't have any options. You just
I
put
remember
whatever was
as
on.
early as 3 years old in '89 watching the. I mean, that's one of my very first memories was watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on a VHS. Like, it was the pizza episode, like
Yeah.
where you had the little pizza monsters or whatever.
And you know why? Because you got it from Pizza Hut.
Yes, you got it from Pizza Hut. That's
Same
right.
way we talked about the other week with X-Men, the animated series. They advertise very much because it's different than the world we live in now. Like,
Right.
So they would put it in cereal. They would put it every single place you might could go. It's there. Same way Batman Returns had Happy Meal toys, and Batman Returns is very like adulterous type stuff in there.
Right.
And they still had Happy Meal toys.
Right.
Like, so I don't know. There's just that whole part of it that because initially, whenever back to my nephew, it was like, oh, we should watch Jurassic Park. He'd love that. But then it's like,
Right.
oh, no, we can't.
Gargoyles.
Yeah, another great one.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. There's a lot of that comes along. And I know we've gone like way off path, but it does like relate to the fact of us 90s kids. I don't know when we watched this. I just feel like it's part of our
Right.
history that you just automatically.
It's like we were born with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
it-
like pre-downloaded into our brains.
Like
Yeah.
it was stitched into our DNA.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Which is-
Maybelline. I don't
Yeah.
know.
which is funny because they take DNA in this
Hi,
movie.
I'm a DNA strand.
Yeah.
What is it with inanimate characters? It reminded me immediately of Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes, yes.
And I was like, why do they give inanimate cartoon characters really intense Southern accents? Like, what is it? She's like, hi, y'all, I'm Miss Minutes. And like this DNA strand has like a Cajun accent.
I guess it's the fact that it's like a friendly voice.
I guess.
Like Southern people are the most friendliest
Are
people in the world,
friendly, like,
obviously.
welcoming. Sure, we'll
Sure.
go with that.
At least that's what we thought then. No.
Oh, man.
But I don't know. Like, now that you say, all I could think about with him was like the little paperclip guy. I don't
Yes,
remember his name.
Clippy.
Clippy. Yeah.
From Microsoft Word.
Yep.
Oh, he was never helpful.
He was like, boink, 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 in the screen.
It's like, you're busy. Can I interrupt you real fast? Like,
Hey, just an idea. You should tab over this
here's
paragraph.
an idea
Yeah.
X.
Yeah. How do I turn off this
yeah.
assistant?
Here's an idea. You sit down and shut up.
Yeah. Clippy.
So I want to touch on something that when I was able to rewatch some of this and go through some of the movies that made us episode on this. I think this movie really resonated with me as a child. Was that I saw this movie through the two grandchildren. Like
Yes.
they were
Sure.
they were our avatars for this movie. They were experiencing this, and we were kind of in our place.
Correct.
And I thought that was a really good way. It's not just a movie about adults who make terrible business and scientific decisions, and there's backstabbing and corporate stuff. And
Right.
no, there's kids who have no idea any of this stuff is going on.
Correct.
And they're just along for the ride,
Right.
and they're experiencing the horror that comes with it. And I thought
Right.
that was a really genius way to, I guess, appeal to the kid market. I didn't understand any of the techno blabo,
No.
DNA,
No,
whatever.
of course.
I just know, hey, there's a boy who's about my age,
Right.
and there's a girl who's a little older than me, and they're getting to pet a triceratops,
Right.
And they're watching, and a T-Rex attack them, and
Right.
and they get to see brontosauruses in the background
Right.
and stuff. I mean, and that was the cool thing for me. That's what I kind of latched onto as a kid,
Right.
And then as an adult, you're like, oh, there's so much other story going on,
Right.
That makes sense why this would happen.
Also, you can, you can tell that you sort of flip into adulthood because at one point I was watching the movie and I was like, oh, the kids, from the kids' perspective, like that must be like awesome. And then one day I went back and I watched it and I was like, those kids are annoying. There's a lot going on. Like, get it together.
Well, and I think
You don't realize what's happening. Just be quiet.
Right.
I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't really enjoy The Lost World that much, because the kids weren't
Yes.
as involved.
Yes.
Or they had like one scene,
Right.
And so it was more,
Right.
just the adults.
Right.
And so I never even saw Jurassic
It's
Park
like-
3.
I remember it, and it happens every time I watch it now as an adult, where they're approaching the Triceratops, and Ellie tells the little boy, like, hey, like, stay here. And the doctor also tells him, like, hey, stay here, like, stay back. And he basically just kind of looks at her and then just, like, pushes away from her and, like, does whatever he wants to. And I'm
Yep.
like, excuse you, when an adult tells you to do something that may be for your own benefit, you listen. And so I'm like, oh God.
Oh, you
I,
ain't my mom.
I passed over out of the veil of childhood.
Yeah,
like,
but
for
10-year-old
sure.
Ashby would be like, who does that stranger think she is? This is my grandpa's park. I'll do what I want.
I'll do what I want. Yeah. Like,
This is more my dinosaur than it is yours.
My grandpa built this park with his bare hands.
Yes. In the snow, 15 miles up.
oh my God. And then when she gets the flashlight and she's like, I'm sorry, I can't turn it off. I'm like, you're an idiot.
There's one button on that thing.
I'm so unsympathetic to those kids at this point. It's terrible.
Oh my goodness.
You mentioned, though, like the other part of it, like the scientific part, all of the DNA, all the other things on that side. I think it was important enough, like as a child, too, like, you didn't have understand anything what they're saying, but you were just like, there's science behind this. This is real. Like, that was kind of the level you got on it.
Right.
And in that, you got to see a dinosaur hatch. So it was kind of like, this is cool. They're saying a lot of mumbo jumbo that means it's real, and now it's hatching. Like,
Right.
Well,
so you didn't stop to think
it's
so
like when
much
you go
about
to
it.
the science museum as a kid, and
true.
like,
Right.
like that's what it was marketed towards. Like, okay,
Right.
we're trying to teach kids about science, and none of that stuff kind of sticks with you necessarily, but you
Right.
remember the things that you think are important.
Correct. Sure.
Like, oh, cool, I saw a dinosaur hatch today. That was really cool.
Right.
You didn't stop and read all the
You
plaques
didn't
and
stop
stuff.
and read like, oh, it took West African frog DNA to create this dinosaur.
Right. Right.
Like,
like-
Well, and the pseudoscience holds up, right?
Yeah.
Which is what is so magical, I think, still about this movie.
magical and a little scary because
And a little
Yeah.
scary because to this day, even though I know enough now as an adult to know that like there are reasons why that process can't and doesn't work because we would have done it already. When they explain it, I'm like, yeah, makes
Sure,
perfect
yeah.
sense. Totally doable.
There's nothing about it that throws you way off. Like, you idiot. I
yeah,
know this
like
now.
that's not possible.
No.
It all sounds very possible.
Well, I think, too, something important for us to think about is a lot of what we know about dinosaurs, or think about dinosaurs, I guess, is this movie.
yes,
Because they're the first, what we think dinosaurs sound like, this movie. Sure.
Correct.
We'd seen things younger, like the dinosaur show or anything else where you hear them roar or whatever.
Right.
But for the first time.
knocked the mama.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Exactly it. But all these other things that when we think of what dinosaurs sound like,
Coloration, like
yeah,
their skin.
what they look like, everything about it, versus now we know, and even they even mentioned it somewhat then, that like it probably would have been more of a feathered like character. Not all of them, but some.
Right.
But it's like they took somewhat of what they had and just added and made it their own. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't some, here we have these pictures of these animals, or here we went and watched this animal, so we did what it did. No, like, so in our brains, though, anything we ever go back and look at or think of dinosaurs mostly comes from this movie. Sure, you had science and everything else growing up in schools and everything else, so you may know more details or things. But you asked me about what a dinosaur looks like. I imagine the T-Rex or any of the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park and what
yeah.
they look like and what they sound like versus what it truly, who knows what it is, because there's no way to know. But I think that's important to think about is this movie and the movies to follow influenced all of us to think about what because it's the closest thing any of us will know of what a dinosaur is.
Right. And the first time with technology that they looked that real.
Yeah, for sure.
Because anything else that had come before, you were seeing a cartoon or a claymation.
Puppet,
Yeah.
We look back, I think one of the oldest is like when Godzilla is like fighting, or King Kong's fighting a dinosaur, something along those lines. Maybe not Godzilla, but like it's a person in a suit.
Right.
But at the time, sure, it was amazing, you
Right.
know. But to see it now, it was something that was amazing then, and it still holds up today. Like, it's not like, oh, this was this, and now it's here so much better.
Right.
They did it in such an ancient, I say ancient, it's not ancient, but like in a time where you didn't have as much as what we have today, and yet
Right.
they still reference these things to make things today.
Random question. Do y'all remember Dino Park Tycoon?
Yes. I played it at school. That was the only time I played it.
Yes, like it was one of those games that was in the Oregon Trail generation.
That you
where
made.
Kinda. I
you had
kinda.
Dino Park Tycoon, Super Munchers,
Right.
and like this is the game where you build a theme park based around dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a way to teach you math and like
Correct.
budgeting and stuff.
Right. Money.
And it never worked because I just wanted to see the dinosaurs get out and eat the people.
I was about to say, that's
Right.
most of what I remember is like you get an alert that like,
Hey, your dinosaur broke out.
yeah, go get him. It's like, oh no, save it. Like, he only killed this many people, but you still have a chance of saving the park. Like,
Like you always buy the little electric fence.
Yeah.
that they go with
First.
or
Yeah.
whatever, and they would still break out because what's the electric fence going to do to the dinosaur? Let's
Right.
be real.
We didn't
think that as a
You-
child,
you,
though.
you have a wooden fence.
Yes. Yeah.
I've forgotten all about that now. All these flashbacks.
Just
Thanks
saying,
for
like,
that.
well, I enjoyed that game.
Yeah, I did.
When I wasn't playing Oregon Trail, I was playing that at school because it had dinosaurs in it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to buy a T-Rex. Oh, they're expensive. Let me get the cheapest one.
Well, we're talking about like the characters in it and what they look like. This was the first time in a movie ever that CGI was used in the way it was. Usually
Correct.
CGI up to this point had been used like for background or special effects or certain things, but not like a living creature.
Right.
And they did it with this movie.
Right.
And they did it in such a way that you can look back and it's just still as amazing to
Right.
see these creatures. If I'm being 100% honest, there's certain scenes that you can look at and be like, oh, that's where the screen is. But still, if you're not trying to find those things, you're just enjoying watching the movie, it still holds up completely.
Right.
And what they did with all the different creatures and how they interact and how they did things, And I think a big part of this too is like the practical effects and the still animatronics that they used in addition, and how they worked them together. I know I talk about that a lot on some other movies about either liking CGI or not liking CGI, because sometimes now we refer to it so much that it can take it away. But if you go back and watch a lot of these like things online about the animatronic creatures and like a full blown T-Rex that got made that was like 9,000 pounds or whatever, and seeing him like when they're in like the Explorer getting attacked, that's just literally a giant T-Rex like head that's crashing down on them.
Right.
It's not some hey, look here and look scared.
Right.
But there are moments that the same way that they combine it so well that when the dinosaurs, like the T-Rex is chasing them, it's no longer the animatronic. Instead, it's the CGI character. But then they also put in real life water splotches, like doing and match it up with the CGI, so it does add more to it that you fully believe that they're getting chased by T-Rex now.
Yeah.
I just think it's amazing of what they could do. The same way with like Ninja Turtles, where in the early '90s they had suits and you loved it, versus now they go CGI and go way overboard, and it's like I'd just rather have somebody in a rubber suit. But with this, how they combine the two together so well, especially for the time where this has never been done before, to go back, and I feel like it's always as like a cornerstone where they look back and say, this is the time that CGI changed in movies forever.
Yeah.
And to see what it was capable of and to do. And I think especially the way that it still holds up today is just something awesome to go back and look at it.
Well, let's jump into the superlatives. Favorite scene? Who would like to go first?
I just finished talking. So somebody
I
else
mean, technically, not to skip to the end, but the whole end scene is really good. And not like the helicopter end scene, but with the T-Rex and the Velociraptors fighting, that I think holds up really well. And the idea that like there's the fossilized dinosaur and the real dinosaur. Also, the T-Rex is technically the hero of the story.
Sure.
I said what I said.
Yeah, well, no, you're not wrong though. He's always the hero.
Yeah.
And he was the hero in Jurassic World too.
Yeah.
Right.
The
That's
more
what
you
I'm
look at
saying.
him, he's still there.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
For me, it's the scene where they're jumping in the helicopter at the very beginning of the movie. He's having to tie like the two ends in, but then they're flying. You got the John Williams score in the background, and you see the Jurassic Park sign for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's just that to me. That's an iconic scene. That's something that just is etched in your brain forever.
Yeah. And I don't know where I heard this, so it could be wrong, but apparently Jeff Goldblum like made up that laugh on the spot where they're in the helicopter, all of them going to the island, and he's like, ha, ha, I can't even do it.
Yeah.
It's just total Jeff Goldblum. It's not how a normal person would laugh
No.
at all. And it's hysterical.
I think my favorite scene is where they're riding over the hills, like they're in the Jeeps. They haven't seen anything yet, like dinosaur specific. They've just seen the land and everything. Then all of a sudden, like, she just keeps talking and talking and talking, and then Alan's just standing up and looking and grabs her head and turns it.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden, especially for us, it's like first time we see dinosaurs, but to think into context where their whole lives have been spent researching these creatures, looking at fossils, digging up things, all of their hard work they've poured into their lives to all of a sudden be moving, living creatures right there. And just for the first time, us as well, seeing these dinosaurs on the big screen. And just with the music and everything playing, to be that realization moment, like this is real. It's not just some random theme park. This is what it is. So I think that just stands out to me forever, where it's just that slow motion of them standing up, looking over, and then there's giant dinosaurs everywhere.
Right.
Good stuff. Anything else we want to add to favorite scene?
I'm not going to add the scene, but one more thing I'm just going to throw in. We talk about our trip to Universal Studios, which we've never done. We still need to do this because the Jurassic Park section is just
amazing.
The same way that Harry Potter World is what it is now. Jurassic Park is that as well, like where they've got it hidden out. And so all of a sudden, you talked about seeing that sign for the first time. I remember being on the ride, you're coming around, and all of a sudden, the music's playing. There's that giant gate that's been a part of your life, your entire childhood ever to now. And then there it is. And it's opening, the music playing, and all of a sudden, you're like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm in Jurassic Park. This is it. Because that sign itself does have such an historic symbolization with this movie and everything else. The same way the whole park has like, giant T-Rex head that like moves some, I think, or whatever, right above the Jeeps and the Explorers and everything else in this movie. And then they have like the research center as well type deal. that you're in there and you're like, I should buy some fossils. I should buy a
Right.
T-shirt, a mug, everything else.
Right.
And I think Universal Studios does that so well.
Yes.
That it's like, you're here, you're in this environment now.
Yeah.
I know I just left Harry Potter World and I needed a wand, books, everything else. Now
Right.
I'm here.
Right.
And I need dinosaur fossils. I
So
need
much
this-
merch. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're like, this is amazing. This is my life now.
Shut
Then
up
you-
and take my money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Then you get back home and you're like, I kind of like Jurassic Park, but I'm not like
Right,
crazy.
right.
But in that moment,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, I am here.
It's like I like
That's how
I
they
kinda-
get you.
I
It is.
kind of like Jurassic
Yeah.
Park, but I didn't mean to become an investor in Jurassic
Yeah.
Park.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like, I now have his cane with the mosquito. Like,
That's how
I have
Disney and
everything.
That
Universal
cane will
gets
help
you.
me
Yeah.
whenever I'm homeless because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spent all of our mortgage money on
Exactly.
And it ends up like in your closet or you just donate it,
Right,
5
right.
years later. Like, but either way, like, not to get way off topic, but just how, again, when we go someday, is just as, I don't know, amazing to think. And so when you said the sign, that's all I could think about was just that moment that instills it. When you go through that on the ride, all of a sudden, I'm here. I'm in Jurassic Park. This is real. So for them, the same way when you watch that movie, when they go through the gate, when they see these things, like, you're just as involved as they are. So that's my spiel.
All right, favorite quote.
I think one of my favorite quotes is in Jeff Goldblum when he's trying to explain chaos theory to her, and then they just get out of the car, and he's like, "And now here I am by myself, talking to myself. That's chaos theory."
Yeah. I feel like he has so many of the memorable quotes in this
He
movie.
really does.
Life finds a way.
Yeah.
Boy, do I hate being right all the time.
And your scientists
man.
were so preoccupied with whether they could, they didn't stop and think if they should.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's several quotes here. The first one that came to mind, it's not even a memorable quote necessarily, but it is to me, is the first scene where the T-Rex is stalking the Jeep in the middle of the night and it's storming. And the lawyer gets out of the car and runs to the bathroom, like little whatever. And they're like, where is he going? He's like, when you got to go, you got to go. I mean,
The lawyer doesn't have very many good quotes, but again, watching this as an adult, he does have one that always makes me laugh where the kid has the binoculars and stuff in the Jeep that he found under the
Yeah.
seat. And he's like, "Are they heavy? Then they're expensive. Put them back."
Yeah. Let's see. It says John Hammond was saying, like, all major parks have delays. When they opened Disneyland in 1956, nothing worked. And Malcolm said, yeah, but John, if Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, pirates don't eat the tourists. So
100%.
for sure.
I mean, yeah, he's probably
Good
right.
point. It's a good
Yeah.
point.
Little boy Tim Murphy. A little too young to be telling dad jokes,
Right.
but he had a couple of great ones. What do you call a blind dinosaur? Do you think he saw us? What do you call a blind dinosaur's dog? Do you think he saw us Rex? I'm sorry. They work.
It's funny. It is funny.
They work.
Ricky Lyles quoted one years ago, and I never knew where it came from, but it's from Ian Malcolm says, I'm always on the lookout for the future ex-Miss Malcolm. And randomly we were hanging out with Ricky once, and he was just like, I'm always ready for the next ex Ricky Lyles or whatever, or ex-Miss Lyles.
The
And I was
future
like,
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a passing, like it's a throwaway, and I haven't seen the Jurassic Park 2 and 3 from this series. Like there's a trilogy, then there's the modern trilogy. So I don't remember if it ever comes back up, but there's a throwaway comment right after that one where he asks if he has kids, and he's like, oh yeah, 3 of them love kids, chaos, whatever. Like it's a throwaway comment, and I'm like, that guy has 3 children. What? Like, didn't see that. And I don't think I noticed it until the last time I watched it, because in my mind, Jeff Goldblum's character was like, I guess he was single if he had a bunch of ex-wives, but him being a dad, I didn't get any of that from his character.
Erica was watching the other, like, randomly just how this worked. I think last week before she watched first Jurassic Park, or walked into it, so she was watching. Then I think it was the next one. I don't think it was the third. I think it was the second one. I could be wrong, but it is his daughter's in it.
Okay.
His daughter's very heavily in it, where
Okay,
like
interesting.
she was there, wasn't going to be like he was going to have her stay with somebody else, she sneaks on and ends up coming back with him. And so very much
Okay.
it's him trying to be there, protect his daughter. You can tell he's still not like the very involved dad. He's like the outside dad.
Right.
But you see that relationship get built a little bit in that movie.
Right.
Last quote I have is the very end of the movie where Dr. Alan Grant says, "Mr. Hammond, after careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park." And John Hammond says, "So have I."
Yeah.
Yep.
I think there's the one line, I didn't write it down so I don't remember, but they're like, John Hammond like flips out. He's like, "I brought you here to help approve this and say all this. And the only one on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer."
Yes.
And the lawyer who had been very excited at this point because, all the money they could
Right,
make
he's
kind
like,
of was like, okay.
Rude.
Yeah.
Even though he literally had just said, "We're going to make so much money from this place."
Yeah, for sure.
Come on, dude. So funny.
We could have coupons for like general public day.
Right. He's like, "We could charge anything. We could charge $10,000. And he's like, no, this is going to be for everyone. He's like, "Yeah, sure. We'll have like one coupon day a year
Yeah.
or something." Like, bless.
What hasn't aged well? We talk about how this movie has held up. We're going to get back to some more things that hold
Sure.
up. But what hasn't aged well?
I mean, the smoking, I think through the 90s, you still see a lot of smoking in movies, and you don't see that anymore for obvious reasons. I mean, I think that Samuel L. Jackson's character is the only one you see smoke, but he literally does not never have a cigarette in his mouth this
Hold
entire
on to
movie.
your butts.
Yes. And then I thought it was interesting, Jeff Goldblum, like his sort of like his character is supposed to be kind of like sexualized and very masculine, and you can tell he's a chaos theory chaos statistician or whatever that travels around the world and hits on women with his
Pretty much, yeah.
chaos theory brain or whatever, the way he does with Ellie. And it still works because it's Jeff Goldblum, and it's never like gross. He never comes on like too strong.
Yeah.
But there was, again, I only caught it this time. There is a scene where he's clearly flirting with her, right? But instead of asking her, like, "Hey, are you interested?" or like, "Hey, are you seeing someone?"
Yeah.
He waits until he's alone with Sam Neill's character and is like, "So, are you guys together?" Like, basically, like, "Is she taken? Is she yours?" And I'm like, "Bro, you can ask her. She can tell you if she's interested or
Sure.
not, or if she's taken or not." Like, that was the only thing that I was kind of like, "Meh." But other than that, and the fact that now as an adult, the kids get on my nerves.
Yeah.
Speaking of the kids, it's a very 90s thing. It would not be a 90s movie without a hacker. And
That's right.
The girl's like, "Oh, it's a Unix system. I know this." And it's like,
Right.
"Oh, you opened up a multi-billion-dollar theme park that's supposed
Right.
to encase dinosaurs, and a
Right.
teenager can hack into the system." Okay.
Well, they do set it up at least a little bit earlier in the movie when the brothers, like, "She's always in her room on the stupid computer."
Yeah, she's a computer nerd. Never underestimate the power of the computer nerds.
Right. I kind of thought it was nice that, like, she's a girl, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
she's kind of like a girl computer nerd hack. Like, that was new.
I think the
certain
idea
extent.
of just,
Oh, yeah. Type, click, click.
Oh, I'm able to hack into the system.
Done.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
You
I
know,
think it worked.
That's different. Like 30 years now, it's like,
Sure.
okay, that's not how
Yeah.
hacking works.
I definitely
Right.
think in the time period it worked because us as kids, if we had any interaction with the computer, it just was like maybe at school. We didn't have.
Right.
Maybe you had an in-home computer at that point. Most likely you didn't.
We had a typewriter.
That's what I mean. Like typewriters were still like a thing. It wasn't like,
Right.
oh, look at this ancient thing. This was like the combo
I want to
period.
say we got our first in-home computer, but my grandfather was a computer nerd. Like, he built his first computer himself in the 80s, like his first home computer when you could buy like a kit.
Sure.
So we probably had a computer earlier than most people because my grandfather was like, "You guys got to get a
Sure.
computer." And my dad was like, "Yeah, sure. Okay."
Yeah.
So probably like 95, 96 maybe. But yeah, definitely not 93. I don't think.
And I say that just to say, with us, with the little interaction of a computer,
Right.
to see her doing, first off, to see her just typing that fast,
Right.
it's like, she's genius, knows what she's doing. Like I said, I totally get what you're saying.
What is her words or her WPAN?
Yeah.
Her
Right,
ramp?
yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I totally get it as today, though, what you mean. Like, it would be very difficult. You
Right.
know, it should be much more than that.
Yeah,
But
not the idea of the teen girl being the hacker, just the fact that that's what hacking looked like.
Correct.
yeah.
You know,
And
Correct.
they built a park based on that.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That's what hasn't aged well to me. Anything else that didn't age well? I think it holds up really well.
I do too. Like, there wasn't much everything you guys said was just kind of in and out of what I was singing. There is that part of you, like, as a dude, that, like, Jeff Goldblum's character, because you've seen so many other things, I think, in life, that you do get a little annoyed with him. That's, like, where he's the flirty, like, over thing.
Right.
But at the same time, like you said, he's never, like, constant, and it's not constantly sexual or stuff like that, where it's, like, gross, per se.
Right.
It's just, like, this is who he is. He never,
Right.
He's flirty the whole time, but he's
Right.
not, beyond that. So,
Right.
overall, because I get it, there's this whole stigmatism of, like, that people love that character. They will have
man.
pictures on their wall
I
of him
love that
laying,
character.
yeah, on a rug, with a shirt
Right.
unbuttoned stuff.
Right.
So I get it. Like, I'm not, like, bashing
Yeah.
him. And I think there's, like, a good mix of it. If anything, that was part that's, like, slightly annoying as a dude. That's like,
Right.
but I say that as you've seen so many other movies, that there's that guy that constantly crosses the line.
Right.
Versus when you go back and watch this, like, he doesn't do that to me. Like you
Right.
said, there's the one moment, but other than that,
Yeah. Well, and I think I had to be an adult to understand the complexity of his character
Sure.
because the beauty of his character is that outwardly he wants to appear as the guy who can't take anything seriously.
Mm-hmm.
When really, if you listen to what he's saying the whole time, he's the only one taking it very seriously. Like,
Sure.
he has really good reasons for why he thinks this whole thing is a bad idea. And then also, he does have that, like, one heroic moment where, and he thinks he's being helpful, right? So, Sam Neill's character takes the flare and is going to throw it for the T-Rex to save the kids. Well, he's like, okay, me too. Like, I can do this. Like, he could have just stayed in the Jeep, right?
Sure.
But he also got a flare and got out and then realized that, like, he couldn't throw it at that point like the other guy had. So then he's just like, well, here we go. And he starts running from a T-Rex holding a flare. Like, he definitely could have died.
Sure.
And he didn't have to do that. So, he could have dipped out like the lawyer and left them.
And went to a toilet.
That was the other thing that kind of hit me now, I guess, more as an adult about how, like, you are responsible for the children in your care. Like, even Sam Neill's character ends up with the kids, which is ironic because he's the one that hates kids, but, like, when they get to the bottom of that cliff and he's got to go up in that tree and get that kid and the little girl, like, doesn't want to let go of him. And he's like, I got to go up there. And she just, like, screams at him, like, he left us, because he did, right?
Yeah.
Like, that guy was in the car with them and then just was like, bye. And he's like, but that's not what I'm going to do, you know? And I was like, oh, man, that was a really good moment. And I didn't catch it the first few times I watched it, probably.
Well, I think that's a good point of it, though, is because a lot of it, we think back on this as like, oh man, amazing dinosaurs.
Right. There's a lot of heart
blah,
in
blah,
this
blah.
movie.
There's so much more of that if you go back and watch it for what it is on all the other things. There's a whole lot more going on than just like there's giant dinosaurs that look real. So
right.
I think that's important too.
Let's go back to what still holds up. We've already talked about the digital technology.
Pseudoscience.
And the pseudoscience is still pretty impressive.
Teen Girl is a hacker.
I don't know if we've
fact
talked
that
about
she's a
this,
girl.
but
The score absolutely still holds up.
for sure.
John Williams still holds up.
Right. I thought about the fact that now as an adult, they did a pretty good job of making sure, like, all the gory death scenes were kind of like pseudo off screen. Because I thought about it and I'm like, these movies are PG-13. So technically there should be a portion of kids seeing it. And it never really crossed my mind because as a kid, even the, like, off screen, like in a fogged up Jeep or behind some bushes or whatever, even the off screen deaths seem like really like, oh my God,
Sure.
because you're a kid, right? And that's the point. But as an adult, now that I'm an adult and I'm not covering my eyes anymore because I'm like, oh, my guy's getting eaten by a dinosaur. I realize I'm like, you can't really see anything happening.
Yeah.
So they did a really good job of making it seem, because now as an adult, I've seen really gory,
Sure.
intense horror movies.
Even on
and-
television now.
Right.
compared.
It
Yeah.
can be very gory. Like, you can get away with a lot now. And so now that I watch it, I'm like, yeah, this is nothing. Like, this is nothing. Like, imagine, like, what they could probably show now, like a full grown man getting torn apart
Sure.
by velociraptors. Like, you could make that look horrifying. And when the hunter, the security guy, goes down, you really don't see anything. Like, you hear him screaming and you see the bushes rustling and you kind of see like him. But yeah, I was like, wait a second. All of these deaths are almost like obscured. And they did it really masterfully you can't really tell that like, it just occurred to me watching it this time that that's what they were doing, you know, that they were trying to get away with showing you something, but almost not showing it to you is more horrifying, but also trying to keep their PG-13 rating.
And they did it in such a way, too, that, like, you don't wish they did the other. Like, it doesn't seem unrealistic. You don't overthink it to be like, oh, man, like, he's just in the bush, whatever. Like, they do it in such a way that's fully believable. It doesn't take away from it. There's just no need to show the extra part because it's done so well. So I definitely think that holds up, too.
So I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there. What still holds up? Well, the novelization of this book or of this movie, which actually is what the movie's based on, by Michael Crichton, which came out in 1990, still holds up. An excellent book.
Okay.
But just the fact that they're still making Jurassic Park movies in 2022 tells me that this movie and this franchise still holds up.
Yeah, I think now that I've watched this one, I'm going to watch all of them all the way through to get ready for
Let me know how
World
Jurassic
Dominion.
Park 3 turns out. I've saw The Lost World. I never saw Jurassic Park 3.
I see. I also, that's one of the reasons I want to watch it, because I don't know if I've seen 3, and I can't. Like, it's been a while since I saw the newest 1 and 2 as well, so I want to see it before. Is World Dominion right?
Yeah, that's
so.
Is that the
Jurassic
name of
World
it?
2, yeah. World Dominion. Or
Is it 3?
Jurassic World Dominion. No, that's 3, yeah, 3. Fallen Kingdoms 2.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm getting them all mixed up.
I know.
Also, the Lost World novel is also very good. So,
Okay.
it's much different than the movie. So,
Interesting.
Well, I think it's cool, too, like, that you mentioned that. I hadn't thought about it, but there's a lot of movies like this that were like, oh, they're still doing this over and over. I'll go watch this, but I kind of skip this. But, you know, how it's better now because of technology, but versus we go back and we're like, no, this is just as good as what it was. And even the ones coming behind it, it's not like Fast and Furious where there's a billion movies now. And, like, for people that loved it in the beginning, most of them still are like, oh, after this, I don't really care anymore because it's just over-the-top action movies, you know, versus I like this and this. But you go back and watch them, and they're super cheesy and stuff, but it holds up. Versus you go back and watch this, and as we've talked about, the science still, like, from watching it on a screen, still seems like it holds up. And I briefly mentioned it before, but, like, the dinosaur practical effects from 1993 that were technically probably made in years before to make it for this movie that came out then still hold up now, where they seem super realistic, super everything. There used to be, there's a museum in Gatlinburg called like Hollywood Star Cars or whatever. And then in that museum, there used to be one of the Explorers. And I think the Explorer was like tore up or whatever. Like it was one of those. And they had this giant animatronic T-Rex head. Now, I don't think this is one from the movie. Like, it's probably much cheaper done, but it's going and seeing it as like a young teen. Every like minute or so, that head would move back and forth. Ooh. And as a child, it freaked me out.
Yeah.
Like, completely. I say a child. As a teenager, I'm still a little bit that way now.
Right.
But I remember, like, my mom being like, oh, stand with this and we'll get the picture. And it scared the mess out of me to know that was behind me.
Yeah.
And it could move its head at any point. Like, its mouth didn't open, nothing like that. But but then it made me think, like, this is something that probably cost super less than what the actual movie one did.
Right.
And to know that there were kids in this movie, first of adults playing it too, but the two kids we're talking about that are actors dealing with this giant T-Rex thing that, you know, there's like 5 or 10 people over there controlling this thing.
Right.
But right here in my face, this looks like it's going to eat me.
It's like your prehistoric brain tells you.
Yeah.
Like, you're in danger.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
It's like the uncanny valley with like the more robots look human, the more they freak us out. And it's just like that's a tiny part of your brain that like goes back thousands of years that is telling you that something is wrong.
Yes, 100%.
Even though you can logic out that like you're not in any danger, your brain is like, yeah, no, we're about to get eaten.
Yeah, like as an actor in that scene, I wouldn't have to act that I was scared. Like I would literally be scared to death, like near tears, trying my best to get my lines out. And being like, okay, can we stop now? Can we stop now? Get him over there, like not over here.
Yeah.
You know, but just to think, like, they could still use those, you know, I know they're probably like decayed and stuff because the stuff they were made of back then. But even the friendlier one, like the giant Triceratops that's like sick, they walk up on it and you're like, there's a freaking T-Rex or no Triceratops right here.
Looks
like
real.
he's leaning on it. It's breathing.
Yeah.
The tongue that like it looks super real
The
and it's
eyes
scaly.
blink. Yeah.
Every little bit of that, I don't question like, oh, there's
Right.
this giant thing here. Like,
Right.
no, there's a Triceratops.
Right.
They live in Hawaii. They're right here. Like, this one's sick. We need to
They're
figure it
real.
out. Yeah,
They're
it
real.
even poops. Like, we need to figure
Yeah.
this out.
It's a big pile. Oh,
Yeah. So, like, that just, for me, that really just stands out how well that holds up. That you could put that in a movie, in the 2022 movie.
Right.
And there's no question, like, it
For
didn't,
sure.
like, there's that old age thing.
honestly, probably felt more real in '93 than it would in 2022.
Sure.
Honestly,
Right.
because we know everything's computerized and they're not really shot. I mean, they're probably shot on location,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like. No, when they shot on location, they used real practical effects.
Yeah.
I know in a combination
Right.
with CGI, and it just felt more real.
Versus now, there would be like a ball or something held up. It's like, this is where it is. Stare at this and act scared.
Yep.
You know, versus now, it's like, no, there's a giant head the size of a car, like trying to eat me right now. So,
Well, last thing that still holds up, the Jeep as the superior vehicle.
true.
Anytime you're getting away from a charging dinosaur,
Honestly.
jump in a Jeep.
I have a Jeep.
We were
I'm not
watching.
saying that's why I have a Jeep.
No, but still.
But it's not a bad idea to have.
But it's
one.
not why I have a Jeep.
Yeah. Erica has a Jeep, and we love it. But I told her the other day when she was watching Jurassic Park again, and I'm sitting there like playing with Sky on the floor, and then that Jeep rolls up, and I'm like, I looked at her and was like, if we ever come upon a time where we just have extra money, I want to build one of those.
Yes.
And it's like, because there's whole groups, like I've researched it before, there's giant groups of people that recreate these things. There's websites you can buy every single decal, everything you need, paint
Yep.
codes, everything for this.
Yep.
Because the main color was like a Jeep factory color. They just added the red on top. So and there's been times in the past where you could find one for sale in like on Facebook Marketplace.
Yep.
So immediately sitting there, I started looking at Marketplace. Like, is there one for sale now? It's like a 1994 Sahara, like, or 92, whatever. It's like, do they have this? Like, I don't need it, but how cool would that be
How
every day to walk
cool
out?
would it be?
Like, you roll up to drop your kid off at school, and it's like, have a good day. No, 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 no. Like, you start playing
Just
it
like
over
play it, like crank
every
it up.
time.
Oh my goodness, Sky's either going to love that or hate it.
Yeah.
Dad, you're so embarrassing.
I'm supposed to be.
All right. Well, fun facts about the movie. I'm going to get us started with the fact that it was released June 9th, 1993, running time 128 minutes, and had a budget of $63 million, which is a lot of movie for 1993. Not so much for now, but $63 million. Returned at box office 1.034 billion globally and
With a
internationally.
B.
Yeah.
Billion with a B. So 63 million. They literally like got their profit back 10 times. I'm impressed that they were able to do this on a $63 million budget, knowing like all these big, the MCU films, and I don't have no idea what the. I'm going to look up what the last Jurassic World movie cost budget wise, but for this movie, $63 billion, and it still holds up as well as it does, and what they were able to get out of that is very impressive to me. And I know that was a lot of money for '93, but I mean, we're doing so much now with hundreds of millions of dollars of a budget. So I thought that was very impressive.
Right. So mine is one of my fun facts, which I noticed was it's more like a oopsie. So when she's got those long gloves on, right, because she's going through the poop looking for those berries, and she's like talking to herself, she's like, it's got to be like, it can't be that, but like every 6 weeks. And she takes, now how you remove gloves as a medical professional, normally you would like grab the end of it, like pinch it, don't touch your skin, peel it off, okay? And then you would hold that dirty glove, and with your now clean hand, you would work your finger up underneath the edge of the other glove, peel it off so that they're both inside out and in one another so that you can touch them, right? Well, she peels off one of them, and she's still got the other one on, and she's just holding that one, and then she grabs it with her other hand. And I'm like, it might have been inside out, but it just kind of looks like now she's just holding a dinosaur poop glove with her clean hand. And I'm like, okay.
Like when you're walking your dog
as
and you
one
pick it
does.
up, like now she's
Right.
just standing there holding it.
I was like, that's not how you remove gloves. It was just really funny. Because then, of course, then Jeff Goldblum's character is like, I hope you wash your hands before you eat.
Yeah. Talking about the animatronics, there was one thing. Well, like Stan, let me look at it real quick. Stan Winston Studios made all of the dinosaurs in this movie, it says the T-Rex animatronic did not work well in the rain. But if you remember, the first time we meet him is in a giant rain scene.
Right.
Where he's busting out and everything else. It said the more wet that it would get, the more waterlogged it would become, and it would shift the weight, which would sometimes cause it to shake violently, and even sometimes just come to life unprompted. So here you are with a thing that's 9,000 pounds at least, full-size dinosaur. The only thing that's not there is just its legs, but everything else is there. And you're just telling me, like, oh, it's so wet that it can just all of a sudden become alive now and do whatever it wants.
Right.
Talking about a real scared child now that saw this off scene. This thing shaking crazy, or just all of a sudden everybody's standing around and all of a sudden it starts moving.
And the dinosaur just like moves its head.
Yeah. And
Absolutely not.
It's just insane to me. Like, but yeah.
Some casting what ifs. Other possible candidates for the movie: William Hurt or Harrison Ford as Alan Grant. Can you imagine
I don't know
Han
about
Solo
that.
or Indiana Jones? Indiana Jones. I mean, Harrison Ford probably could have fit that role because he played Indiana Jones. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
He was a paleontologist, right?
Yeah.
He would have pulled the grumpiness off.
Yeah.
No problem.
Christina Ricci as Lex. This would have been a
Okay.
young Christina Ricci.
I could see that.
Interesting.
Sean Connery as John Hammond.
Oh, I can definitely see that.
And Robin Wright as Ellie Sattler.
Can see that too.
So
Yeah.
could have had a whole different movie there, but I think they. Do you think any of them could have pulled it off better than what we got?
I mean, the only one there that I think I could see having like the same gravitas and the same weight is the Sean Connery switch. You know,
See, I don't know. I think Richard Attenborough,
I mean,
who came out of retirement for this film,
correct,
by the way,
correct,
I can't see anyone in his spot. I
right,
can't.
right,
Especially now that you've seen it. It's
You
hard
know?
to reset.
right.
I can see Harrison Ford in the Alan Grant spot.
I don't think he would have brought the same, like that kind of like spark of like passion.
I get the
that
serious side of
Samuel
it, but-
comes through. Like I just think he would have been grumpier and a little bit less multi-tonal. You know,
I saw it on some video that was listing those characters, and they listed one more. Again, no research, but this was like facts from Jurassic Park, whatever. For Jeff Goldblum, they briefly considered Jim Carrey. And for me, I was like, there's no way that would
there's
have worked.
no way.
Like Jeff Goldblum's character. And again, no
Yeah.
research into that, so I could be
Right.
completely wrong, but they did list him as that.
Right.
And I was like,
Yeah.
that would have just been a completely different movie. There's no way
Yeah.
that would have worked. So,
I'll say we just keep the cast the way they are. I
Yeah,
think
for
they
sure.
all nailed it the way they are. So
well, also, I think it's important, too, that like he went after actors and actresses that for their skills versus just trying to get some giant celebrities in.
Right.
Yes.
Not to say any of
Right.
them aren't like who they are, but at the same time, they didn't rely on like big names. Instead, they posed people that could really act, especially in these environments, like that were crazy different situations than any movies before. So,
Right.
I definitely think it's a great cast.
by the way, the last Jurassic World movie had a budget of $170 million,
Good grief.
and it brought back $1.3 billion. So
Well, I mean-
an extra $300 million for
Inflation.
I'll say,
How
yeah.
much was it made for? How much was this movie made for? Did you say?
$63 million.
Okay, I'm gonna do some quick math.
So do that, in 2017, 2018 was when
Oh, the other one?
the last Jurassic World movie.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So $63 million in today's dollars. Well, that's not what I asked for.
Doing some quick math here.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up like an
Finance.
inflation calculator.
The thing that amazes me, though, is you said in 1993 they came out with 1 point something billion.
1.063 million or
And then
billion.
18 or whatever as well, the movie was 1.3.
1.3.
Okay, $63 million in 1993 is worth $122.5 million today.
So what's the billion, though? Look at that one.
That's the box office.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What would that one be in today's?
So $1 billion.
Yeah.
So the original Jurassic Park brought
Yeah.
back $1 billion.
In 93. So if the other one now brought 1.3.
Almost $2 billion.
Yeah.
So that's crazy
Yeah.
to think about,
so
too.
it still kind of out-earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts.
Yeah. Like the new one brought in $300 million more than the original did,
Right.
which is crazy
Right.
considering it was 20 plus years later. So, any other fun facts? I've got one more. If y'all don't have any, or if y'all
I've
have
got a couple.
Okay.
For the Raptors, I've always thought of the same way. Either these are animatronics or CGI, but there are actually people inside those costumes.
Yep.
And again, Stan Winston Studios, I think if you Google it now, it's like Stan Winston Schools. I highly recommend it. There's like the YouTube page itself has tons of videos from back then, like making these costumes, how they came from tiny molds to making the giant dinosaurs. Especially with like the raptors, they show the people inside of it.
Yeah.
Show
They
them
made
walking
take
around.
movement classes.
Yeah, and figuring out how to do these things the same way, like the Triceratops, they talk about it, and then it shows you on scene in Hawaii with them.
Yeah.
How like it wasn't finished when they got there, but they started working on it. There's a lot of stuff there, and there's brief things too where it was showing like when they were trying to teach these characters how to act. There's literally people running around the parking lot with little like heads
Right.
on. And just running and acting like animals to get an
Yes.
idea of like
Yeah.
what it should look like when they're doing these things.
Right.
And so for me, again, as a child, knowing a person's in that suit, but
Right.
knowing you're in a dark, flashing like kitchen,
Right.
and that giant dinosaur thing's looking around the
Right.
corner, I'd still be super scared.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
After filming wrapped, another director took the reins so Spielberg could start work on Schindler's List. So Spielberg and the rest of the crew finished filming Jurassic Park 12 days ahead of schedule. But Spielberg had to shift gears completely
Fly to Germany, I think.
so he can concentrate on shooting and completing Schindler's List, which would go into production in March of 1993. So because of the tight shooting schedule, he handed over some of the post-production responsibilities to George Lucas, who and he was given a special thanks credit in the final film.
The great partnership of our time.
Yep.
Another one thing, an iconic scene from this movie that has been shown in multiple other like shows or whatever, kind of referencing it, but the first time we're about to meet the T-Rex, you see the water cups inside the Explorer and how they start shaking, like
Yeah.
the water starts vibrating. They talked about how that was done as a practical effect. Was they had a guitar string connected underneath the dash, and as they plucked it, it would make the water vibrate like that. So again, I think it's an iconic scene. We've seen it in cartoons and other things since
Right.
then, where all of a sudden the
See?
water's shaking.
Practical effects.
It is.
Yeah.
They could have CGI'd that water shaking, but nope, a guitar string.
They
made
would
that water
absolutely
shake.
CGI it today.
Yeah.
So,
We don't need water here.
no water at all.
One more thing I'll say too is like filming locations. A lot of the outdoor big beautiful things was all in Hawaii. All the other things with like most of the dinosaurs was in LA and stuff on studios. But if you go back to Hawaii today, which I've never been, but I had a friend that lived there once and she had posted pictures, but there's a lot of, you can go on tours now of all Hawaii where it's showing you all the different filming locations, where that giant sign was you were talking about before they drive through. Sign's not there, but there's still two poles there that show like where it was. But they still also have a sign there that like from like shows the classic Jurassic Park logo with like the T-Rex skull and stuff behind it. Like there's a big sign there that you can go and get your picture taken with, like showing like this is where this was filmed and all these other things. So I think it's cool. Like it's always neat to be able to see like where you can go back and visit places like this to see where these things actually were filmed at.
Cool deal. I have one last question. I don't think we have any social media shout-outs for this. But, so in lieu of that, this is off the cuff, wasn't in our outline. What are you hoping to get out of the new Jurassic World movie coming out in June? What are your hopes for that movie after seeing this and after enjoying this movie, and for you, and I know your wife loves the franchise. What are your hopes for that movie? What do you want to see, especially with them reuniting all three main cast members for the first time?
I need to go back and watch all the other
do too.
movies because I'm not sure where we left. Like,
I can tell you where we left off in the
Okay.
last one. The little girl who was cloned freed the rest of the dinosaurs,
Right.
And now they're roaming around.
I do know I'm more up with the current trilogy, but I can't remember like where we left Ellie and Ian. Like where like they're not together anymore, and then
And see, I don't know that, honestly, because I know Dr. Grant appeared in the third movie, but I didn't see the third movie.
Okay, so we watched
Right.
part of that the other week. I couldn't remember what it was, but I remember I walking in. Well, like I was in the room, but Erica was watching that now,
right.
and I was really having tough being like, I don't know if I remember this, but
Right.
there's certain parts. But I do know there's a scene in there where he's in trouble, stuff's going bad.
He calls her.
He calls
right?
her, and
I
she's
have
at home,
seen that.
and like I feel like it's one of those things that like the phone.
But they're just friends.
I guess so. Yeah,
I think.
it was vague enough that I don't remember, and I wasn't paying full attention
And the
watching
call
it.
gets cut off.
Yeah.
But she ends up sending like the
Yeah.
the cavalry.
Yeah, they
to-
pick
for
free them or catch them, whatever.
But I thought she had a kid.
She did.
Like she's at home with a family. It's clearly not, and he's clearly not involved. I don't know. That was all very confusing. So yeah, I would like some personal closure for like the interpersonal relationships. Let's call it. I don't know. Like, I don't know with all the dinosaurs being loose, like what that looks like on the world. Like, you can't put Pandora back in the box. You know what I'm saying? But like, what is that doing to our ecosystem? And I feel like it's a lot of like heavy questions to answer in one movie. How you rectify that decision to let them all loose? I don't know.
Where did they get left loose at or released at?
Well, they were at this big auction where all these big, I guess, multi-billionaires were going to buy their own personal dinosaur or whatever.
Right.
And the little girl just lets them all loose.
I'm just trying to remember
because
where that
otherwise
was.
they were going to die.
I think they were in California.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think
in
they
America,
were on like
just-
the Northwest Pacific coast or
yes.
whatever.
Because I know the trailers, I haven't watched it. Because it's one of those parts, there's part of me that's like, it talks about the original cast being back, and I'm like, I want to be surprised. So I haven't watched it. But
The only thing I remember from the trailer is they're at a drive-in movie theater and a dinosaur interrupts the drive-in movie.
Right.
So
Right.
I think I would like to see, again, I think, especially right now, being so heavily involved in this first one, after watching it and kind of researching it some,
Right.
that's where my brain and like heart and everything is right now. So I get like, I think I'd like to see a lot of,
watch through.
I want to
everything.
see where they are as like those three to see where
Right.
the relationships ended up. How is that working now? What does that look like?
Right.
And then especially like John Hammond's not alive anymore. Like all that's, he's gone.
Right.
And just to see how they handle things. Plus you've got like Chris Pratt and everyone else. So you have the old crew. If we handled this, almost 30
Right.
years ago, we're handling
crew.
it now.
Right.
How does that work together?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there would,
I can't wait to see Chris Pratt's character and Jeff Goldblum's
Yeah.
character interact. Like, come on.
because there's part of me that automatically thinks of him and Thor, where like he's like acting
Yeah.
tough and stuff.
Yeah.
So you basically have Star-Lord versus the Grand Master.
Yeah,
Correct.
very true.
Correct.
And so I think just, from how I assume it'll be is like there'll be a little bit of like
Right.
roughness between the two.
Right. We're gonna do it
Like,
this way. No,
you
we're gonna
handled
do
it
it this
30
way.
years ago this way, but we handle it this way now.
Right.
And it's like, well, we could actually touch our dinosaurs then. Now you just imagine they're here now. Like,
Right.
So like, there's going to be that. And then by the end, I assume they'll like be working together.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe they open their own Jurassic Park together. Like, we can
saw-
handle this now.
I don't know. I don't want to cry, but I feel like I'm going to cry
Somebody
for
gonna
whatever
die?
reason. I don't know. Because the very first, what was the first new one? Jurassic
World.
Jurassic
Mm-hmm.
World. That's the one where the island blows up at
Yes.
the end,
Oh
right?
my God. Yeah, I was so sad.
And she's like, they make it on the boat, and some of the dinosaurs make it on the boat, but then like the very end, in that like cloud of smoke, you see the brontosaurus like raise up
I
and
cried.
like kind of go "Roar," and come back down, and I was like, how dare
Did we see this?
do that to the land of before time trauma generation?
Yes.
That actually happened in the second movie.
Okay.
That
Either
was the
way.
beginning of the second movie, but still.
Okay. Yes, it was horrible. I was crying in a
Yes.
theater full of strangers. I was like, no.
I'm trying to remember if we saw this at the drive-in together or not, but I don't know. I just remember the same way.
I feel like they're
It's
going to make me cry again.
Yeah.
Like, what if Blue dies?
I was going to say, I need to see Blue do something heroic in this the new
What if
movie.
she dies, like, protecting them? I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry. And I think
And
she
did-
has a baby. Is that the baby's in the trailer?
I don't
There's a
know, but
little
to see
baby
that
Blue?
relationship between, like, especially if she does do it, and like Chris Pratt's
Right.
character and her during that moment of where she
Right.
saved him,
Right.
man. If you're listening out there to us, a random podcast, like
we did say-
write it in. You still got time.
That's right. We did say there's going to be spoilers, so
Yeah.
Well,
we've now spoiled every Jurassic Park
Yeah.
movie.
except for
Vaguely-
Jurassic Park 3 because we haven't seen
That's
it.
it.
We haven't seen it,
We
but we're
vaguely-
writing it.
Yeah, we vaguely thrown all sorts of things out because
Yeah.
we're like, I don't remember which one this was, but I remember this.
Oh, goodness. Well, we got to get out of here. Big thank you to Ricky Lyles for his contributions to our podcast. Audience, we hope you enjoyed our discussion as much as we did. It's been fun. And that you're as pumped for the rest of this journey into 90s pop culture as we are. Since we're out of time, go ahead and hit them up with some last-minute plugs.
I'm Ashby Brame. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Ashby Gray. And, I'm just ranting these days about various things. There's a new Teen Wolf movie that's going to come out soon, and we're going to get started back up again soon with Marvel TV shows and, just random stuff.
Nice. I'm Kyle Whitley. You can find me on Instagram at _live_bright_. I think the most pumped I'm excited about is Batman's out now. Haven't seen it yet. Plan to go see it tomorrow.
Right, yep.
So I've tried my best to stay away from all reviews, all things. I know they put a lot of scenes out you can watch. I've avoided all those.
Right.
But from the random titles that I've seen popped up about articles, there's a lot of people saying is this better than The Dark Knight? Saying high praise for it. So that's up there.
That's up there. Wow.
There's a guy that was very much involved with Batman with certain things
setting
that
expectations.
said it's up there. So I have no idea. I'm not saying that it is. I haven't seen it yet. But in getting excited for that, we did start watching that Dark Knight trilogy last night. Erica put it on again. She chose it. Great wife. But definitely excited to see that tomorrow and all the other awesome things that are coming our way with new television and other series coming.
Nice.
And I'm Eric Creech. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram at EricaMac15. Very excited for Batman. I'm hoping to be able to join you tomorrow.
You should.
I'm hoping I'm able to go to.
I haven't picked a time because I was I'm going to let, if you guys can come and there's a time that works better, you pick it and we'll go.
Me and Ivy had lunch plans, but they fell through. So I don't know if she'll want to go to this, but if we're free and she wants to do some stuff at home,
she's more invited. Welcome to come as well.
Yep. So
I want to go see Uncharted with Tom Holland. Speaking of tropical adventures.
Yes.
So
I will say that we watched Encanto last week.
Oh, I've still got to see that.
And while we don't talk about Bruno,
That's fun.
It was the soundtrack is a bop for sure.
Yeah.
And the movie is very good.
It is.
very.
I've got to
well
watch
good,
the movie so then I can get into the soundtrack. I can't do it the opposite way, like I told you guys with Hamilton.
We don't
So-
talk about Bruno.
He
no,
told
no,
me that
no.
the man of my that's all I know. That's literally all I know.
It's definitely good. We really enjoy it.
Family
Also,
Madrigal.
speaking of movies, Eric, I did go see Death on the Nile, and you would love it.
Nice.
You would love it.
Nice. Kind of like a murder mystery type thing.
Yeah, so Death on the Nile is the second in the Agatha Christie series that Kenneth Branagh is producing and starring in as Hercule Poirot. Murder on the Orient Express a few years ago was the other one. So yeah, 100% based on Agatha Christie novels, which Knives Out wasn't, but it's the exact same flair, the same feel.
Speaking of Knives Out, the sequel to that is coming out this year. So
Yes.
another thing to look forward to. Also, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness coming out about a month from now when this episode airs. This episode is scheduled to air on April 11th. So we got about a month
May.
before.
For my birthday.
Nice.
I think it comes out the weekend of Erica's birthday.
Okay.
So something
Go
to
see all the things.
something to go. Excited to
I
be
might
able
not
to do
be
that.
in the country at that time, actually, now that I think about it. You guys might have to go see it without me.
We'll wait till you come back.
Early May, I think you're still in the country. I don't think
Okay,
you-
so it's early May.
It's early May.
Okay.
So
Erica's
Is it
birthday's the 3rd.
Okay, so it's
I think
the
it's
first
the-
week in May.
I think it's the
Okay,
5th or 6th that it
yes,
comes out,
I will
so.
still be around.
That'll be your send-off party.
Yep.
Yes.
We'll go to the Alamo.
Ooh,
That's fun.
I've never been to the Alamo.
And Ivy hasn't either. I've
worth
been
it.
looking for a reason to take her. So.
Okay, let's
But-
do it.
Yep. So anyway, thank y'all for joining us. Next week's episode, boy bands and girl bands. So we had our 90s mixtape episode a few episodes ago, but we kind of left out the boy bands and girl bands on purpose, and we're going to dedicate a whole episode to
so exciting.
them.
What
So,
qualifies as a boy or girl band?
well, we're going to
Listen
talk
in
gonna
and
talk
find
we're
out.
going
about
to
it.
find out because we might have some weird interpretations of what that looks like. So make sure you join us next time on What the What and stay as cool as the other side of the pillow. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Dinosaur eats man. Women inherit the earth.
What the what?
What the what?